presentation from the macroeconomic and larger perspective. But I am going to on rural development and rural areas perspective, as I mentioned. The reason is quite understandable, as I mentioned. Somebody is speaking or the noise? Ashok sir, okay. This mic is on. Okay. Ashok sir, can you please mute? Okay. As I told that rural development, why we should trust on rural development, why it is important that much of the rural development. Some data and snapshot, if you go to that as a rural India, when you talk about the rural India, definitely say India means as a rural India, because if you go there, more than 65% of the India in the rural area, they are living in the rural area. So the rural population is that. Number of villages and almost 6.4 lakhs villages. Average household size in 4.3%, and that tribal population we have also in the rural area, which we are looking for. Even the northeastern perspective, it is important that 8.6% tribal population majority in rural area. If you see that when we are talking about the budget and other thing, on is the informal economy. So that is also one. Then the demand for work. If you see that earlier, the MGNREGA program, almost 7 to 8 crore people are looking for the job, right? They are demanding through MGNREGA and other. And similarly, if you see that that MGNREGA fulfill almost 45 to 50 mandates. But there are we can see the huge migration, seasonal distress migration, depending on higher rainfall and travel bill from rural to urban. That this thing. Even if you go to our backbone as agriculture and natural resources and other for the rural area, then you can see that average land holding pattern is almost just 1.08 hectare. Even mostly 86% are all the farmers are mainly they're small and marginal farmer, and depends on their agriculture, their cultivation and everything depends on that nature, and that's why it's important how we address those issues. And if you see that irrigation coverage, that is also 48% the cultivated area is just but which is totally depends on agriculture. So when you are thinking for the perspective of future, we are thinking for that India is a Viksit Bharat. So we can't ignore the Viksit Gramin Bharat in a nutshell. And that's why when you prepare a budget, we have to keep in the mind what is the strength of the rural areas, rural economies and other, and what is the demand of the rural people and what is the present situation. So your investment on that budget is not only the allocation of some fund, but when preparing a budget, it must address those issues, that what are the lacuna, what is the gap, how we can readdress. So the present scenario, we have to understand the present scenario and also the past, what happened, the trend you have to understand, then you can think for that what will come for the budget. Say, for example, our rural female workforce participation is right now only 30%, right? So, and even, but if you can see that there is also potentiality that under National Rural Livelihood Mission, almost 9 women are there. So there is a stock are there. You can think for that. You can invest on that so that you can rural India progress. And women-headed household also we have almost 12 to 14%. And unpaid care, that which is the I mean, if you see that high level, the rural women, you can see that even tribal women, the key contributor to agriculture, forest-based livelihood, NTFP, non-timber forest products, and informal economy. So we can't ignore. Even if we look at to the other dimension of the social sector like health and nutrition, in particularly I am focusing to the rural areas. The primary healthcare center in the almost 25,000, mainly understaffed. If you see that, And then rural doctor population gaps, there's significant gap in the remote and tribal areas. The child nutrition rate, malnutrition, even the rural areas is 35% in the is higher in the rural belt. It's still stunning for that. And access to the health insurance improved, but several gaps are there. It is going on. And then mental health service, several limitation in this. If you go to the education sector for the youth, which is very, very important, the rural literacy rate 73%. We have a lot of we have done, but yet to cover up. And school dropout again issue in the higher in the rural and tribal areas, particularly women. The girl dropout in the tribal areas, a huge that we have to keep in mind, and that youths are there. They are sharing 27% of the rural population. Similarly, the skill training number of programs are going on, Deen Dayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushal Yojana and other, but limited how it can adjust to that when they are making a training in the rural areas, how it can adjust to the urban job sector. That is very, very important. So skilling is not only for the skilling for only rural, but how they can match. They are match the demand for the urban areas. That's why the relation is required. Similarly, digital device that everywhere, everybody is talking of the mobile, the pay, the phone pay, Google Pay, several pays are there, UPI methods are there. So how the youth can cope up with that? Even some speakers were talking of the artificial intelligence. The era has come that everybody having mobile. Those artificial intelligence, how they can match up. So the things you have when you are preparing the budget, you have to think. Similarly, if you go to the infrastructure, because the budget generally goes for that, invest on that infrastructure, drinking water coverage 95% reportedly connected, which is a good sign for us. But the water quality is a matter of concern. The key challenges for that, even the sustainability and the maintenance. It's not the one time you have done it. Then rural housing, Prime Minister Awas Yojana, 3 crore household sanction. It's a good sign. Similarly, always the connectivity, 70 to 75% village are connected, but the maintenance of the road, it is not the one time. That's why we are looking for the budget. What can be our the budget expectation from that? And the internet connectivity, again, it's weaker right now. Even I was facing in the university, the facing the challenge that connectivity is broad, that hilly and border areas, the connectivity. If you see the northeastern perspective also, we have some good things. Say, for example, 60% we have the forest cover. When we are talking about sustainability, somebody was talking, even my earlier speaker was talking about the economy and the sustainability, the balance between these two, which is very, very important. Then pattern, it's scattered. So when you are thinking for the budget, it is not the plain, right? It is the budget, the same, the fund and other thing you have to consider. That's why I told that these basic things we have to consider in the mind when we are preparing a budget. And then livelihood based agriculture, forest and informal sector. Then again the key challenge, connectivity. There several types of landslides in eastern region, so road blockage thing there. So the connectivity, the national highways and other, you have to put more budget. And also that there are opportunities, say investment in the ecotourism, natural farming, forest-based enterprise. Those things can be there. Even the indigenous knowledge, how we can trap on that. Some research, the fund on the research on international, indigenous knowledge in the northeastern region. Those can be also. So altogether, if you think that what is our rural, mainly it's a it's a young, informal, climate vulnerable, and gender unequal position. Similarly, if you go to that, the welfare coverage has improved, like in terms of health, livelihood, quality, then other things. But again, there are a lot of chances, a lot of things we have to do for the future, like we have to giving on the scheme for job in Bangalore and other. But after a few days, they are coming back. They can't adjust on that. With the salary, the money was given, the remuneration is given, the wage they are given, or the urban life, they may not survive. So it is not only skilling, but the placement is also important. Similarly, the women-led enterprise, that climate adaptation for the agriculture and other, and local institutions. So the things you have to keep in the mind when you are preparing a budget. Let us think on that. What is the trend? If you see that before we go expectation for that, what can be the trend for our last 3 years budget, and that can give us some concrete idea. If you go to the budget of 2023 and 24, there is a budget which mostly focuses on a rural income support program like Pradhan Mantri Kishan, Kishi Samman Nidhi, then other program like the rural credit support program, modified subvention schemes like MISs, and so a lot of things like rural infrastructure, drinking water, Jal Jeevan Mission we got, and emphasize to improve the basic things. Then there was a earlier MGNREGA program, that is a job guarantees and other. So overall, if you see that budget, I mean, little bit look back, then 23, 24, it was refined that support for the agriculture income on the rural infrastructure. But concern remain about the adequate job creation and the real rural livelihood security. If you go to the back again, another 2024-25, so that you can get the trend, then you can see that there is a change in the budget, right? It is almost 4% of the overall budget. What was the up earlier budget of 2023 and 24? So key rural schemes like MGNREGA, Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, Gramin, Jal Jeevan Mission continues, and the allocation of that, and the emphasis is given to employment, housing, and water supply. Similarly, if you go to the budget, also allocated more resources to welfare program benefit the women, and we are expecting it will continue. The children, SC/ST group, and Northeastern region indirectly support the rural social development. Credit support. If you see that, so in a nutshell, 24-25 we got that rural development receive modest growth in investment. So that is required. So if we have to invest more, if it is not only some paper we can say, but it's required some investment in the budget with balance emphasis on livelihood, infrastructure, social support through structural challenges. But if you see that next it is the 2025-26 budget, there is a huge change, the roughly almost 8% higher than the revised budget, and the government estimated highlighted the rural prosperity and resilience program, then the continuation of MGNREGA, but there was significant gap in the investment on that with the proposed expansion of the guaranteed workforce and the infrastructure like as we mentioned, Pradhan Mantri Gram Sarak Yojana, and then startup village enterprise SBEP program, those under National Rural Livelihood Mission and other. So the one of my speaker was talking about the startup. It's not only that, but in the rural area, how the startup and village enterprise, the job is. So in 2025 and 26, mainly if we got that expanding in the rural allocation and then how it can be. So what we are expecting in the coming year. So if you see that the trend was that rural development and that if you even somebody was talking about the sustainable development goal, almost all the 17 goal SDGs goal. If you see properly, mostly it is a rural issue. That's why I'm advocating so much on the rural issue. This is not only my subject, but also it is need of the country, where our Gandhiji told that the India will perish if village perish. Same continuation is going on because 65% of population living in the rural areas. You can't ignore those things, right? And that's why it is important that how, if you see that SDG goal number 1, the zero poverty, right? The zero poverty, the majority of the poverty, or even if you see the global level also, 80% of the poor are living in the rural area, right? Even if you go to the hunger, say zero hunger, SDG goal number 2, the SDG goal number 2, zero hunger. If you think that most of the malnutrition and other, the effect of the hunger is in the rural area. Similarly, the answer is also coming from rural area. Say agriculture, natural farming, organic farming, those agriculture, sustainable agriculture, the answer to the SDG goal number 2. Similarly, if you go to the SDG goal number 3, that also talking about the mostly the health and well-being, that even a lot of rural areas, the malnutrition, the iron deficiency in the rural areas, the tribal area. So if we can invest mostly on the rural aspect, then clearly we are getting to reach to our global goal, not only Indian perspective, perspective of that Viksit Bharat 2047, but we are also addressing towards a global goal of SDGs, another SDG goal number. Almost all the goals are related to and focus on the rural area. And that's why if you see that United Nations in 2021 they come up with a report stating or discussing on rural development. So you are going to address even the SDGs. So that's why thinking that this financial year 2026 and 27 budget is expected to increase the allocation of the major rural development scheme by the double digit. Let us get first time at least double digit on the rural development. At least 10% budget should be allocated on the rural development there. Strengthening the economic demand in the rural economy, and this may include the higher funding for employment, water, housing, roads, and livelihood. These are important. Now, if you see that livelihood, which is major concern,
Sorry,
starting from
sir,
the
for
poverty,
interrupting you.
other women-led or livelihood under National Rural Livelihood Mission, lot of things are there, but the trend is that the rural prosperity and the other resilience program introduced in 2025 aims to the for the better economies, how much you can bring the gap between the in the male female or other groups to create job and discourage migration. The how is it possible to reduce the migration? For that say rural to rural, now there is a possibility to rural to this and now it has changed. You know that Dikshit Bharat Guarantee for Rojgar and Ajivika Mission. This is a new bill has come, the act has come in 2025, and I'm sure and expecting there will be more investment on that to increase the rural employment guarantee from 100 to 125 days, and that is important. The higher things investment on that. If you go to that infrastructure again, I'm sure that Jal Jeevan Mission and other programs that will continue, and Pradhan Mantri sir, so some more fund will be allocated. Investment for the women, youth, and social development. That also it is important. So some more fund will be there to meet that. So the key point what we are expecting from the budget 2026-27 in the perspective of rural development, double-digit growth in rural development budget overall, higher rural employment guarantee allocation, which is very, very crucial, important, boosted agriculture support, including because considering the climate action, climate change, and the value chain infrastructure, enhance that infrastructure spending in terms of road, water, sanitation, and other, and the focus on inclusive social development, more on gender like gender budget and gender equality on those issues, SDG 5 and other, the women, youth, and tribal people, and mostly as important to make a convergence of different department schemes so that we can get. Now, allow me only 2 minutes for the northeastern perspective. You see that in the rural development and other, it is required a massive geography sensitive planning, because you can't think the plain land and northeastern together. We have a hilly, forest, and border areas. We are covering 5 border areas. So the problem in Bangladesh is affecting to the northeastern, even the rural area. If you see the problem in the Myanmar, it is a problem for the other northeastern states, the Mizoram, Nagaland, and other they are facing. Similarly, if it is a problem in Nepal, the other northeastern states are there. So it is very much important. These are all related. And informal economy, if you see the border, cross-border informal economies are there. That's why when we are preparing a budget, it should not be isolated. The entire northeastern should be treated as a, like it may be a tourism circuit, the entire circuit. It's not only for the one state and other state. So big projects, and we are looking for big infrastructure, maybe in terms of road, in terms of railways, in terms of other small airports may be done. Then tribal women as a change agent, we have to consider in the budget also that it is not only the recipient end, but the tribal women SHGs you can boost their marketing the product. We have a lot of indigenous product in northeastern. How we can get the market is maybe it's a processing unit, some big farm, or tie with the corporate sector. How we can reach so that the tribal people in the northeast can get their resources. They have the handloom, they have the handicraft, they have other organic things, they have a lot of agriculture product, non-timber forest product, bamboo product. How we can get the market? Similarly, we are suffering in the northeastern several times of either the flood, either landslides, and other. How these issues, there's more investment on that for the those. It is maintaining of these roads, maintaining of the road. They require more fund for maintenance of the road. So water security and those things, and that time has come. As I mentioned, the documentation and dissemination of information, the traditional institution in the northeastern states, and how they made the community led preservation. It is not that not every time it is a government dependent. How the community led development can be given importance to the upcoming Viksit Bharat. Viksit Bharat is not that only government will do, but rather Viksit Bharat is that how community will lead that, and community, and that's why Northeastern they have a social capital, they have a very good community feeling, and we have to capture, we have to nurture those community feeling to the community governance. If we are going for the Viksit Bharat, it is not only the trade and investment or on industry, but we have to think our indigenous thing that we get. So, and the budget bringing the northeastern connectivity, as I mentioned, with the road or the digital access or the market, that can make a better integrated the feeling of not the isolation, feeling of inclusiveness among the northeastern states, particularly the rural northeast, particularly the tribal northeast. It is important how we can be part of that. And this budget, we are expecting for that more investment on that, not only monetary, but rather emotional investment to get the Viksit Bharat. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Now I would like to invite Professor S.R. Keshava, sir, from Bangalore University. Sir, we'll be talking on expectations from the Union Budget 2026-27. Are you there, sir? Professor Keshava, sir, are you there? I think sir has left. Okay, and then I would like to invite Professor Panduranga, sir. Sir is from Central University of Karnataka. Sir will be talking on taxation reforms and revenue mobilization. Welcome, sir. Please start your presentation.
Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Hello. There may be some signal issue. Just I am traveling.
Okay, sir.
My voice is clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Actually, I wanted to small change in topic. I requested the organizer, Professor Vikas.
Okay. No issue.
I wanted to talk on MSMEs.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now, MSMEs, the budget should more attention on the of MSMEs. So if possible, and do special incentives for the proposal on sustainable development, because they are consuming a lot of power. So there are some areas where solar can be extensively used. Some of the MSMEs have this captive power plants, and all these things can be substituted by solar. So for industrial usage, sustainable development must be a priority. So initially, actually for sustainable projects, the rate of depreciation was 60%, 80%. Now it is reduced to 40%. I think for the equipments used in pollution control equipments and other things, the rate of depreciation should be increased like earlier, maybe 60% or 80%. This is more labor intensive industry. They provide a lot of employment, and more startups are coming up. So, but the concentration of startups are in some areas, not across the cities. For example, in Karnataka, a lot of startups are around Bangalore. So they are trying to do something beyond Bangalore. So what best can be done by the central government for startups? Startup funding should be based on their location, where they are located. If they are located in rural areas, they must be given priority while funding the projects. And technology is another important aspect, and patents funding is to be given for registering patents, because small industries also doing a lot of research and development innovation. Especially there are a lot of small pharmaceutical industries which are actually manufacturing and they're supplying to large scale industries. So for that, patents subsidy are how the ease of doing business, like that ease of registering patents is essential. uh, I'm audible? Just I wanted to check because I'm traveling
Yes,
in
sir.
between
Yes,
the,
sir.
yeah.
You are.
Okay. So other important aspects for MSMEs is, so there are a lot of tiny industries. What they are saying, some of the experts, there must be separate for policy for not general for MSMEs. We have MSME Development Act 2006, but the majority of the benefit is not derived by the tiny industries. So policy for micro and tiny industries, that is one demand for small industries. And majority of the small industries location is also one problem. So if infrastructure is developed, majority of the small industries can be concentrated and they can be get connectivity. Some of the MSMEs are located in rural areas, backward areas, and there is a problem of connectivity. So now in our Karnataka, one highway is passing, express highway, which is connecting three more four states. So nearby those states, an industrial corridor can be developed. And majority of the problem of MSMEs is are they are not marketing incentives, marketing subsidies, or how they have to do branding. Lot of activities are to be conducted at a regional level about the branding, how to market the product, and how to brand the products. This is one of the important area where MSMEs are lagging. Another important issue that MSMEs are playing is a kind of bargaining power, because they are directly supplying to major industries. So a lot of industries are coming like in make in India projects and all. So our MSME should be protected. Earlier there was some sort of reservation for MSMEs in public procurement. Now also there is a reservation in public procurement, but the problem is that that is not properly implemented. So you have to ensure that all the public procurement, they are buying from MSMEs at least as per the standards, and more products should be reserved. There should be sub reservation for small and tiny industries. Small and tiny industries, micro industries, they are doing a lot of contribution to the GDP. They are also exporting, and export credit guarantee they are not able to access. Credit is also another problem, and there should be some mechanism specifically for credit rating of MSMEs. Once you do a separate credit rating, so based on their credit rating, how easily they can access the finance. Financing is a major problem for MSMEs. So if properly they are able to secure the finance, it will be a scope for their development. And the major problem for MSM is again they are getting the power cuts, and power tariffs are also very high, especially in some states where they are giving a lot of free, but the rate has been hiked. Cost, or they are not able to control the cost because of a hike in power. So some sort of subsidy or lower power tariff must be given for MSMEs. And the important aspects for MSMEs is the skill development. A lot of industries are required a skilled workforce. So skill development activities are going on, but what kind of skills that the MSMEs are required? So that skill gap analysis is to be done. A lot of fund is spent on skill development activities. There are a lot of institutes which are also providing skill development programs. But what skill exactly this MSMEs require, in consultation with them, if you take proper feedback from MSMEs, and what kind of trained workforce they want, that has to be identified. So unless you do a proper skill gap analysis, it is not possible to provide a skilled workforce to MSMEs. Maybe some institutions they can tie up with internship, etc. There is a placement opportunities. So likewise, the some sort of MOUs that small scale industry development boards or district industry centers or MSME development institutes have to have MOUs. If they have MOUs with some institutions, IITs, central universities, and NITs, lot of centrally funded institutes and state funded institutes are there. If they have MOU with them and if they are able to provide a certification course of 6 months or 3 months, for that there must be funding from government. If these things are taken care, I think MSMEs will focus, and they have to again give some sort of tax soaps for the MSMEs which are located in regional areas and which are backward areas. They deserve much lower rate of taxation, maybe 15% or 20% tax. And there is also a scheme like uh, it, it, we have something called uh, taxation policy which can be used for tiny industries. This presumptive taxation. Presumptive taxation is not very popular, so implementation is not very easy. But